graphic tees. Yeah, we can just get real models next time.
Nice. Jake is in early. Nice. There we go. It's all there.
Okay, all the merch should be up.
So for those of you just tuning in, which is all three of you, the merch is live. I'm sick today, so Gareth is going to do all the talking.
You'll have to do some talking as well. Is your monitor color contrast just strange, or is it because it's?
I don't know. Is your contrast strange, maybe?
No, but you look really red on the.
Yeah, we do. It's weird, isn't it?
So the merchandise is. I'll just post a link. So this is number 3. It's the first time in. It's actually about this time 2 years ago. So literally the week before the world fell apart from the pandemic, we did our merchandise launch. We got everything posted out before everything fell apart. So go forth and purchase.
Hopefully it's not a sign of things to come.
What?
Us doing a merch drop and something.
Another pandemic.
Hey. Nice. We got someone bought a pair of tracksuit pants already. So Baker asks, hey fellas, I was wondering the value of a heavy belt for squats. I can obviously hit way higher weights with a powerlifting belt, but will beltless have better carryover to American football? It's a good question. So you probably do get a better training effect while not wearing a belt. You'll definitely get better midline development. There's been studies done though on the activation of the core while squatting with and without a belt. And
no, you talk about belt squats.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Sorry, Dara, as we mentioned, is sick today, so
yeah,
might not be making much sense. He's got the flu, not the sea flu, but just the normal flu.
Just the normal flu.
So the value of heavy belt squats. So obviously you can hit way higher weights with a powerlifting belt. Oh, hang on.
No, it is about belt.
Oh, sorry.
So for most athletes I have, unless they're in the off season and really, really pushing heavy weights, they're recommended not to train with a belt. You just don't have that much time to train in season. And so not wearing a belt and getting a bit more of a training effect with lighter weights or relatively lighter weights seems to do a better job. I do like people to have a very high top end number though. So in the off season or when they have a bit of a break and we can get at some heavy weights, then I like people to wear a belt because that obviously that ceiling of the top end weights gets raised.
So I think the main thing you need to worry about when you're using belts is the if you're covering up pain or injury with belts. So that's the main thing I'd be concerned about. So I'd never be too worried about if someone can hit 200 with a belt and like 180 or 190 without a belt. Oftentimes for sports, the heavier weight is more valuable with the belt. The only thing I'd be concerned about is if you are in pain when you're not wearing the belt. If you do a squat and you have a lot of pain in your lower back or something like that similar, then it would be a concern and we want to address that as opposed to the weight you'd get from the belt or whatever, or the extra weight. But if you're in pain without it, it's definitely an issue that's impending and something that's probably going to happen and be not great. But I would say, like we talked about this for rugby, I think last week, at certain points in the season or with certain players, high or moderately high box squats with a lot of weight with a belt have a very valuable use. Like just absolute weight, just the amount of weight you put on your back is just very, very useful. It just does something to your body, to the organism. We don't scale massively well. It's not a linear increase in kind of strength and power with our joints and our muscle mass as we get heavier. the reaction is still for everyone. 300 kilos is still a heavy weight. Like for Lasha can't come in and squat 300 kilos, or he probably can, but it's still a difficult weight for him to squat ultimately. So the absolute weights have their uses, and if sometimes to a certain extent things like belts are useful. Now, do you go all the way and say, well, what if I wear a squat suit or a bench shirt? Am I using a lot more weight then? Will that have the same value? No, it's not really the answer. So essentially, then you're replacing the mechanical load with an external mechanical load to a certain extent. There's like a threshold there. Like belts, for example, don't assist you in the actions. They just help you maintain a bit of integrity. Whereas stuff like a squat suit or a bench shirt are replacing the mechanical load essentially to a passing over that threshold to being borderline not useful. So if you talk to any powerlifter who does equipped, they'll tell you, like, if their equipped bench goes up or their equipped squat goes up, their non-equipped squat won't go up unless they're pushing it. Like, so they can add 100 kilos to their equipped bench or their equipped squat, and their unequipped squat will go nowhere unless they're also in addition pushing that as well, which is interesting.
So there's a couple of questions specifically about the merch that we'll get to before we get to the other training questions. What size top does Owen wear? You wear large for all tops.
So I wear large for everything. So for t-shirts, the long sleeve and this hoodie, that's large. They are tight fitting. So depending on what look you want. For the t-shirts, the large is like a normal fit. A normal t-shirt fit. Yeah. Or they're not extra baggy or anything like that. The long sleeve t-shirts large are what Dara's wearing.
I'm XL.
Yeah. And you're XL and everything. Like, so kind of depending on your build, you'll have to adjust it a little bit like you would with any clothes. But whatever you normally adjust to will work for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you normally are like, okay, I know a large will fit me, but I prefer an extra large, like, go for that. There's nothing special about those. The only thing is the pants, like we mentioned, you'll probably just need to, depending on your height to ass ratio, as we call this, you may need to size down. So I normally wear large on every pants, but for the pants we have, I'm actually a medium fits better. So just be aware of that.
I think the tracksuit pants are nearly gone.
But your normal size fits you perfectly.
Yeah, so I wear XL in all pants, training pants, and those training pants fit me perfectly in XL. I'm fairly leggy though.
Yes.
Okay. Let's get back to some more questions.
But your size for the pants are appropriate though. I think I'm the outlier here as opposed to other people.
Yeah.
I think other people will know
what size. You also can't buy jeans in a shop.
No, so I think
you have to get your suits custom made.
So I think I'm the problem here for sizing. Whereas
I've been saying it for years.
You wearing an XL because you always wear XL pants.
Yeah,
it's perfect. I'm so happy with the pants. I've been training them months, as you've seen, and there's no wear and tear in them yet. So I'm really happy with the quality of them.
They took a lot of development on Owen's behalf. Yes. A lot of samples, a lot of send back and readjust. And
well, it came from scratch, basically.
Yeah.
The style of the pants, what material. We're really specific about the material we wanted for the pants. And I'm so happy we got it. So that's kind of why this launch kind of took so long, was getting the pants. So getting them in that particular design and that way, getting the samples, sending the back samples. The material was the big one, and I'm sorry we got that. That's the exact kind of material I want for training pants, because it's so important. The long sleeves, if you're in good shape, the long sleeves look phenomenal. So good.
Yeah.
And these hoodies, if you're in good shape as well, they fit very nicely around the arms. I assume if people had bigger pecs, it'd fit nicely here as well. But for me, it's nice. I like this. They're tight.
Yeah.
Nice. There's a lot of room in the hood, which is what I like about these as well. I like that there's...
Yeah. They're baggy hoods.
Yeah. I would have gone... maybe in future, if we do something similar like this, we go for a baggier hoodie still, I think, maybe. Yeah. But it's not super tight. I like there's no drawstring on these either.
I really like that.
I hate drawstrings.
Just a normal hood.
And the graphic t-shirts. I can't wait to do more graphic t-shirts. There's a load of different things I want to do on the graphics t-shirts. In fairness to Alex, if you give him creative freedom, like he does a
stellar job.
We sent him, like, what a baby would draw, what
Yeah.
one of our nieces or nephews would draw
Yeah.
on a page, and he came back with the Republic of Sikistan thing.
Yeah.
It was
It's so
just
good.
like we made no changes to the Republic of
No.
Sikistan. He sent it back. We're like, this is perfect.
Yeah,
Like,
this is exactly what we wanted.
This is, you know, when you have something in your head and you're just not sure exactly, and then when someone does it like talented that way, you're like, that's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
This is perfect.
No, Alex is exceptionally good in that way. Okay, Gian Polo Uribe asks, how do you do aerobic work as a sprinter or any fast explosive athlete without adapting slow twitch stroke getting slower?
It's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question, because theoretically you don't. Theoretically, every training move you make pushes you in a specific direction. So if you're a sprinter, you only sprint specifically, but obviously we all know you have to do some sort of aerobic work. You have to train those different pathways, right? How sprinters tend to do it, and then how different athletes in different sports tend to do it are different. So what you'll see a lot of the time with sprinters is they'll do quite high volumes in the longer distances. So 200, 400, 600, and 800 meters in their off season, or like even in the early parts of their season. Then when they start to transition in, that the amount of longer distance runs they do will reduce down fairly significantly. They'll still have a certain amount of them in there, so they might still do 1 or 2 sessions a week where they might have some 600 and 800 meter runs in there. Obviously, they're still doing slightly longer distance runs as they're warming up, as they're moving through different parts of the cycle. But most of the time, sprinters will do the majority of their aerobic work out of season, and then they'll just work to maintain that in season. Now, when you talk about any other fast, explosive athletes and what that looks like and how they kind of maintain it, they tend to do it in more of a concurrent manner. So they'll tend to have a session every week, or a piece of a session every week, where they're quite aerobically focused, depending on the sport. If you're like a field sports player or a hockey player, you're predominantly a fast and explosive athlete, but there's obviously a significant aerobic element to it. In those cases, it is just 1 or 2 standalone sessions a week, or 1 or 2 periods of a session a week, where you work on your aerobic work. And you might work in it more in a pre-season block. So most of the time, off season will be strength, power, speed development. Pre-season will be aerobic development and maintenance of strength, speed, and power. And then in season, you try and maintain all those variables as they gradually decay away through the playing of your sport. So that's generally how you would do it, or that's generally how most teams and athletes would do it.
It's probably like one of the most important questions any coach would be asking themselves, you know, or looking to get when they're coaching anyone going fast. And I think, like, if you're an athlete and you're even thinking about this in any way, I think you're off to a great start as an athlete. Like, you're a foot ahead of a lot of other athletes in some scenarios, you know. That kind of periodization, or that blocking of training that I was talking about, is what you see working in the real world in athletes. Now, what you do see is that you see type 2X changing to type 2A, and then type 2A changing to slow twitch fibers. Now, you asked later, Jen, is it true that you can only convert slow twitch and not the fast twitch? So that's not true. So you can go from slow twitch to type 2A, but what we don't see is type 2A going to type 2X. And we don't seem to see that happening. You can certainly, the proportion of fibers can change in either direction based on your training. Now, things that will affect this is genetics, training history. I would bet even nutrition to a tiny extent. Like, I'm talking like a 0.5% would affect that. Your environment, obviously the style of training is very, very important for that. Performance enhancing drug use is hugely, hugely related to this. I'll tell you a funny one about this. So they did a study on sheep, right? And they put electric stim contractile machines on sheep's lats, and they took a biopsy, and they measured the values of, or the proportionality of fast twitch and slow twitch, so what percentage there was before and after the use of a performance enhancing drug, or an anabolic steroid, primobolan. And they went from something like 10% fast twitch fibers in the sheep's lats after the study for a few weeks, and so they contracted the muscle for them,
Yeah.
while giving them the performance-enhancing drugs, and it went from like 90 slow twitch to 10% fast to something like 90% fast twitch.
No way.
To like 9-10% slow twitch. So even in the absence of performance-enhancing drugs, and that's a funny anecdote, but you can certainly change. Now, I think as your career goes on, as your body, the more history of a certain environment and homeostasis your body is in, I think the harder will be to go in the extremes of either one of those, to get to a certain place. Certain things, like we mentioned, will make it easier or harder for certain people. But the longer, if you spend a career doing endurance running, you spend 20 odd years from the ages of 15 to 35 doing endurance running, what's the likelihood you'll be able to become a high-level Olympic lifter, even if your genetics are predisposed to it at the age of 35 in the absence of performance-enhancing drugs? Probably pretty low. So the longer you go in a certain scenario, the longer you've reinforced a certain behavior and a certain type of muscle composition, metabolic behavior, motor habits, and stuff like that, the harder it'll be. Not that I say you can't, it just makes it much more difficult. So
I will say as well on this, a lot of what you're seeing when you do training isn't necessarily a fiber type shift, So when Owen goes through a training period and he sees an increase in his snatch or an increase in his clean and jerk, he's probably not seeing a fiber type shift there. He's trained for a long time. He's probably not even seeing like a proportional increase in one size of a fiber type compared to the other, which is what most of us will experience. Most of us won't actually proportionally shift from a fast to a slow or from a slow to a fast. All that will happen is the actual fibers on one side will shrink and the other side will swell. So the fast twitch Owen has will swell versus the slow twitch he has will reduce. But a lot of what you actually see is auxiliary factors to that. So in the case of a sprinter going and doing his or her aerobic work, it's probably not that as she gets or he gets more fit and their aerobic values and their aerobic tests increase, it's probably not due to a fiber type shift or anything to do with the fibers. It's probably down to a host of other additional factors. Because I think people definitely do get caught in the weeds a small bit with the really needing to be specific. And if I work on my aerobic work, I'm going to slow myself down. That's assuming you've maxed out all the other things. That's assuming all of your mitochondrial density has been maxed out. All of your red blood cells and hemoglobin has been maxed out. All of your lung capacity, all of that has been maximized. That's realistically not going to happen for most people. Now, if you're Usain Bolt and they're asking you to do a 5K jog every day, it's very, very likely you're going to have a negative shift from fast to slow. But for most people, a small bit of aerobic work won't actually bring about a fiber type shift, assuming you're still doing your speed and your power and your strength work.
Yeah, I think that was definitely correct in that it's not as susceptible as you think to change, even though there is some research to show that after one session, a change can occur. But I think that's like a low threshold change. So it's like if we just talked about that runner who did running for 20 years, if they suddenly do a bit of power training, that certain amount, that kind of, you're just at that baby and like those big beginner gains and that fast twitch stuff, like that will, I bet it would be smaller and smaller as the time went on, that the change after single session. So you do see a fiber type change. There's a possibility of happening after one session, but I think it's minute, and I think the impact is very, very low. I think it's minimal. I think even across, and I think this will be backed up by anecdotal evidence and all of the kind of block periodization you see people do, is even after a training block, like a 6-week period of GPP phase or aerobic stuff, I think the actual magnitude of change, that its impact on your actual performance would be pretty low, because we do see that being highly useful for an athlete's performance at the end of the day. So even if there's a fastest change, it seems to be massively outweighed by that block periodization or those GPP phases or those prep phases, and they're integral to the programming or smart programming. You do see it work very well. So even if they do incur a small change, even if they incur a little bit of like fiber type distribution to slow twitch, it doesn't seem to be to a magnitude of anything meaningful, So it certainly can happen. It's definitely something you should be aware of, but I would put good training principles first before I would put is this action activating and reinforcing slow twitch movements.
Just a few things on the merch that are popping up in the chat. David Bloomer, your order has come through. Just for anyone who's waiting for a confirmation email, though they get sent out almost immediately, but you just need to check your spam or your junk mail. You'll get another email then when they're posted out later this week. So David, we have gotten your order. Just make sure you check your spam or your junk mail.
Eugene's asking, should the lads in the weightlifting camp on the 15th to the 18th of April ask? No, because
they'll be different
Let me
t-shirts.
answer. Jesus Christ. Can I finish the sentence?
Go on.
There'll be different t-shirts, Eugene. So we're doing just t-shirts specifically for your people at the camp. So you don't need to... You can get a t-shirt of these if you want, but they're different ones. They're just included in the camp stuff we're giving you. Is there any other questions about the merch?
There was one more just on sizing. So I can't find... Oh, yeah. Someone said Dara is like 6'3", 6'4", and 100 kilos. No, I'm like 6'1" and 100 kilos, just if you're wondering. And I'm XL and everything.
Yeah, everything seems to be running true to size except for the tracksuits, which just... Actually, that's not even true. I think just for me, it's you'll know if you're an outlier, like I mentioned at the start, but everything runs true to the usual European size you get, what we've seen.
Okay.
I really hope people get their stuff, because and it means something to them, because like the clothes we did 2 years ago, I still wear all of those stuff. I still all wear those t-shirts and those.
They've lasted so well.
Yeah, like the road t-shirts you bought like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
that's the kind of thing I want people to get out of these. I want people to consistently see, like, oh shit, my Seeker Strength t-shirt is washed. I'm going to wear it. My hoodie's washed, or my pants is clean. That's what I want out of these. Because it's obviously, if we haven't done a launch in 2 years, we're not doing merch just for the sake of doing merch.
Yeah.
But and there's a reason. We want to make sure it's stuff where people are like, oh yes, my hoodie's clean or whatever. When you see something in the closet and you're like, oh, I forgot I washed that or whatever.
Okay,
is there anything left?
There's a couple of large pants left, I think, and XL pants.
There's a good few XL left, is there?
Yeah, nice. So good few XL, few large, one female medium left. Great, that's perfect. Okay, next question. In case you never read around to doing the video, where does Olympic fencing lie on this strength velocity curve?
We'll definitely get to it. We'll get to that.
We'll definitely get to it.
No, we'll definitely get to that.
We'll get to it. A one-word answer is fast.
Fast. All fast.
All fast.
I'd say very, very, very close to sprinting almost.
Yeah, it's up here.
Yeah. It's very close.
Okay. Hanshin O says, what kind of weightlifting program should I follow if trying to lose a considerable amount of weight? Seems like strength hypertrophy would not be optimal. So weightlifting, the sport of weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting, whatever you call it, probably isn't the ideal thing to do if you're trying to lose a considerable amount of weight. And there's a couple of reasons. So the first thing is, when you're looking for like what training you should do to lose a considerable amount of weight, most of the time people are looking to train because they want to gain some muscle so they'll be less efficient as a person and their entire engine will burn more energy on a daily basis. So muscle is very, very expensive to hold on to metabolically. Owning muscle and holding muscle costs a lot of calories. So that's the first reason, right? That's why bodybuilding movements tend to be quite useful for people who are trying to get in better shape. The second thing you have to look at doing then is like the amount of energy you burn in a session. So the amount of calories it takes you just to do the hour or hour and a half or 2 hours of training. Weightlifting isn't expensive in the session itself. You warm up, you do some lifts, you chill out in between lifts, you might sit down, then you probably do some strength work like squats, presses, rows, or pulls, and then you do some accessory work at the end. None of those are majorly caloric expensive in terms of calories, particularly due to the fact that you do a lot of sessions every week. So you need to be fresh so you can really be snappy on the snatch and clean and jerk. So in both of those cases, weightlifting isn't ideal. Now, if weightlifting is the only reason you'll go to the gym, then by all means go do weightlifting. It will be better than doing nothing. but most of the time it'd be worth doing like a general strength and hypertrophy program combined with increased physical activity. That would probably be the best thing to do. So like running an off-season athlete program and then going for multiple 10-minute walks every day, that would be incredibly beneficial for somebody who wants to lose a considerable amount of weight. And then you kind of periodize it where I'm losing weight now. You might only do snatches or clean and jerks a couple of times a week. And then when you're in season, you're not focused so much on losing weight, but instead maybe maintaining weight or very slowly losing amounts of weight. And you can do more of your proper weightlifting stuff then. Okay. Saul says, "Hey lads, was just wondering why I feel substantially stronger in my lower body after doing tempo squats." So this is pretty interesting. There's a few things here. So the first thing is there's a phenomenon known as PAP, right? Post-activation potentiation. And that's basically states that after we do very, very heavy or difficult muscle contractions, we can then produce more force with the next muscle contraction. So it'll be like, say if you're doing vertical jumps, 30 seconds before the vertical jump, you do a max isometric squat attempt. So in a quarter squat, pushing up as hard as you can, you might hold that for 30 seconds. Then you take a set amount of time, be that 5 minutes or however long, and then you go and do your vertical jumps. You'll be able to do a higher vertical jump having done the max effort concentric piece in a few minutes previous to it. So PAP could certainly be a thing there. The other thing you're probably experiencing is just an actual really good warm-up, right? So a lot of the time people will say like, oh, if I do pause lifts as I warm up, I feel better. Or if I do tempo lifts as I warm up for my squats, I feel better. What's actually happening there is you just haven't been warming up effectively in the previous instance. And now you've introduced something like a pause squat, which might increase mobility around the hips, or you've brought in a tempo squat, which might force you to rely on your stability and bracing or concentrate on your bracing a small bit more. And then that leads you to feeling stronger in your lower body afterwards. So it's very likely it's down to one of those two things. And tempo squats are great as well because you really get to force yourself into a good position because you're controlling it all the way down. You're really squeezing down into the bottom position. And then especially if you're controlling the concentric as well on the way back up, you're really feeling your way through like the weight distribution, the inclination of your torso, and you just get some nice practice with it. Puzzled wants to know, how's your finger?
My finger is doing great. So it's basically out of the splint for everyday activity now. And I do some warm up without the splint on in training. And then once the bar gets a little bit heavier, I'll start putting on the splint. So the tendon just needs adequate time to rehab and get used to heavier loads. Obviously, the rehab for like people who aren't doing strength training and stuff is just take off the splint and go about daily life. But obviously, there's a little bit more loading and high forces on it. So I just have to be a bit slower wearing the splint just in sessions. But pretty much very close to what they said I'd be wearing the splint for. So my finger's basically back to straight. There's just a little bit of swelling on the back of the tendon, which it actually makes it look bent, but it's literally like scar tissue, I'd imagine.
That's probably good though.
Yeah, I assume that will go with time, or if not, it makes a difference. Functionality is back 100%, so good to go. I was talking to someone who sees a lot of this physios, and he was saying if you do what you're supposed to do, you should be fine. If you don't, you'll fuck it up. So quite a few people said that to me. They were like, if you pay attention to it, it'll come back. If you fuck around, it won't.
Yeah.
So I didn't fuck around, to be fair.
No, you didn't. You didn't take any risk with it.
No, in spite of the jiu-jitsu culture, which is terrible. To be fair, that as someone in jiu-jitsu said in one of the videos, they're like the toxic injury culture around jiu-jitsu. If I'd have paid attention to that, my finger I'd have mallet finger by now.
It'd be like this.
I'd have mallet finger. Literally would have mallet finger. So, but full functionality. So very happy. I just need to take it easy again for the next couple of weeks. I could still fuck it up a little bit.
It's me, Mario. Asked thoughts on trying to teach yourself Olympic lifting at 35.
It depends what you want out of sport, and it depends what you want to get out of weightlifting. If you just want to learn something fun and dedicate yourself to a craft, and you're happy to be very slow and diligent with it, then I would say weightlifting is certainly a good option. And if that's what your body wants and your mind wants and your fucking spirit calls out for, then I would think you can definitely go do it. However, if you've aspirations to be really good at something, if you have aspirations to progress something fast, if you have aspirations to get better at something and, climb the hill to a better objective, I don't know if weightlifting, depending on what you've done, so the context in this depends massively what you've done before, your genetics and how much training you've done in your past history, whatever. So if you just have to put a bit of context on and understand what you want out of learning weightlifting, if it's something that if you're really goal orientated and progressive to goal orientated, then you could still do weightlifting, but you'd have to be really smart with your goals. So you might have to objectively change your goals and say, instead of being like, okay, I want to snatch 100 kilos after 1 year, as an 18-year-old might say that, and that's a very reasonable but ambitious goal after a year. That's perfect. Whereas as a 35-year-old with 1 year of strength training and you haven't played sports in 15 years, and you say, I want to snatch 100 kilos after a year as a 35-year-old, that might not be the best goal for you. But you could take your goals and say, okay, I want to snatch 60 kilos in 3 months' time, but this 60 kilo is going to be absolutely perfect. And you could change your goals to things like, I'm going to have a full depth squat at 35 with a high bar. That's going to be perfect. I'm going to have full ankle range of motion. You can change your goals accordingly like that. But if you're the kind of person who is really performance and outcome orientated, those kind of goals just won't do it for you. There's some personality types that just won't be able to really get it from that. So I would say just have a good look at where you are. Can any 35-year-old do it? No. Can a certain 35-year-old do it? Yes, I would say.
And this is all exactly what Gareth is saying there. And it's not just down to your physical makeup. It's all to do with how you as a person deal with going down that road. Gareth is you have a load of masters athletes.
Too many masters.
I only have one master athlete at the moment, and with really good athletes are really good no matter what age they are. So there's definitely the case where it's me. You could go and in your shed or in your local gym start moving around a barbell and loosening up wherever you need to loosen up and making more stable and more rigid wherever it needs to be made more stable and more rigid. But it's not going to be, it won't be glory days stuff, It isn't for most athletes anyway, but it's not going to be easy. There's obviously a bit of a drawback with being 35 instead of being 15. You just popped in there an athletic training background.
2.5 times body squat. So
yeah, I
absolutely.
think certainly in your case, with those kind of stats
on paper,
it's all there and doable. It's probably going to be the psychological end of things more than anything else, of dealing with the months and months and months of progress, regress. And it will be a difficult road, but it's certainly doable. And we're here to help you wherever we can.
Luke is saying, I wish I could support you guys, but Brazilian currency does not help. Also, shipping makes it too expensive. That's very understandable.
Yeah,
Lucas.
Absolutely. That's fair.
Priority number one for us, though, is people getting good clothes and good clothes they want, and then obviously, way down the list is like people supporting us and are into things. We want people to be getting, it is first and foremost, we want you to get a good product and something that you want to wear and that you can afford without issue. That's the
and that's always the thing. I wish shipping was cheaper. We've gone with
this is the cheapest shipping we could get.
Yeah. It's like half the price of some of the ones that are quoted.
It's absolutely scandalous shipping quotes from all of the major logistics companies, DHL, UPS, I think TNT as well. They were literally quoting us, there would be 25 odd euro or 25 pounds or whatever to the UK from Ireland in terms of shipping, which is just ludicrous. So in terms of t-shirt price, that would have been basically the price of the t-shirt on top of the t-shirt someone to pay. So it doesn't make any sense. There's so the National Post Service in Ireland won out.
Yeah. Okay. Jarvilli says, How important do you think it is to learn a lot about the science about strength training? As an athlete, I've gone with the idea of just do what the coach says. As an athlete, the best thing you could do
Yes.
is never learn anything.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Take your glasses off,
Yeah.
put a mask on your head, and just what they tell you to do, you go and do that.
Okay.
That's
That's what you should say.
okay.
Okay. Okay.
Go
Thanks.
do your squats.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks.
I have never seen it to be true. And this is both as being an athlete, as observing other athletes, as being a coach, and as observing other coaches. I have never seen the case to be true where if you're with the right coach, doing the correct training, going down the learning more science route actually makes more of a difference. I've seen good athletes with terrible coaches make great progress by just saying, okay, and going and doing it.
In fact, I have seen people hold back their progress by spending too much time thinking about what they should be doing. I've seen a lot of people do this. So this is far removed even from our own coaches, people we know as athletes ourselves, I've seen a lot of people want to be so involved in the process, overthinking the process, thinking so much about what they should be doing, questioning what their coach is telling them. Now, sometimes they are correct. So with people on like club teams and stuff here in Ireland, they were telling us what their coach is doing, and they were like, that doesn't seem right. And it wasn't right. They kept getting injured. But a lot of scenarios I've seen where they've been questioning stuff, being like, no, I don't know if this is right, questioning the program. Where I've seen a lot of people progress incredibly well by just being like, they don't even think about the thought of questioning. They're literally like, this is my program. This is what my coach is telling me to do. I am a weightlifter. I am a rugby player. I am a whatever, a shot putter. And they just keep banging their head off the wall this and just keep banging. And they're the best people. Now, maybe there's a bit of bias in there and that their genetics predispose them to good progress. But sport is hard for everyone, even if you have the best genetics, So honestly, if you're a self-coached individual athlete and you want to coach other people, then it's very important to learn. But to be honest, it doesn't benefit. So I've never really seen it benefit people that much, to be honest.
No, when I think about the amount of cases where I've seen people hold themselves back, I would just recommend highly against it. And as somebody who I've coached for a long time, when I'm programming for myself, it holds me back. I would be way better off if Garth wrote my program or if someone else wrote my program, because I wouldn't be constantly thinking about it. And it's definitely one of the big drawbacks is that you always think about it. You get that, like, we bounce ideas off each other a lot, and you need that. You need an external person to tell you, yes, that's wrong. Yes, this is right.
If you weren't working in S&C, what job industry do you think you'd be in? Well, I'd still be in pharmaceutical, unfortunately, but I think I probably would have made the change to some kind of education, I think, or teaching, not like higher level teaching. I think I would have gone like outside of school teaching. I think I would have probably gone down if I'd never been involved in this stuff.
Professional development.
Yeah, professional development. I think helping adults just kind of educate themselves, on science or something, maybe. Science.
If I never went down the sports route, I probably would be an engineer
or an architect.
Yeah,
I could see that. I could see you being very happy with that as well.
Yeah, I really like making things.
Yeah, a YouTube channel making things.
Yeah. That would be it.
Fits is fix it.
If something happened and Sika went away, I'd probably equip my garage with a lathe and a milling machine and just make things.
The pants don't have zips for pockets, but they do have zips down the bottom on the inside. There is 6-1.
There is.
You should do a rugby Sika polo next. We have talked about doing a Sika jersey.
Yeah.
But they're expensive to get made. We have looked into it, so we might do a limited run of those next time, maybe, if we can get nice ones, because it'll look great.
Like either an ice hockey jersey or a basketball jersey. Sorry.
No, I think close to a rugby jersey.
Do you think?
Yeah, rugby jersey.
Yeah, it would be sick, like a sports team jersey.
I don't like the ice hockey ones.
That's just because Rambo wears them and he's in terrible shape.
We could do a basketball.
Yeah,
sleeveless top.
That'd be sick.
Or like a tank top, basketball in black and white always looks great.
Yeah. Durk Tran says, dank question, who's stronger, a grizzly-sized Clarence or 10 Clarence-sized grizzlies? Clarence is the size of a grizzly bear.
No, he's talking about Grizzly, the big heavy dude from Is it Greece? Is Grizzly from Greece?
Oh, is he? Sorry, I thought you were talking about bears. Either way, 10 of the Clarence-sized grizzlies would be...
You're so out of touch with the internet. Ugh.
I don't spend a lot of time here.
What is the secret to getting the front squat to feel the same as the clean? Standing up cleans always feels good when standing up front squats. Like you look like a cat taking a shit. Just good practice. Listen to your coach. I would just listen to your coach and tell him, listen to what he tells you to do.
I definitely listen to your coach, as I am your coach. No, I think this happens at a few of the lifts, right, where the snatch balance might feel way harder to catch in the bottom than a snatch, or the clean might feel better than a front squat. Particularly with the snatch balance, like there's such a higher height that the bar is starting at before it falls on you, that there's a lot more force coming down. In the clean, I think it's more to do with, as you pull under the clean, there's an inherent tightness in your front rack and a level of stability that's brought around by that previous contraction where it feels very good. Your upper back is obviously primed from the pull off the floor. So I think, Evan, for you, like just more concentration on unracking the bar as if you're racking a clean and just having that systematic tightness. A lot of the time when we unrack a front squat, we're just happy for it to crush down in our clavicles and kind of sit there. And then the rack position of our shoulders becomes secondary to it. Whereas you really want to unrack a front squat as if you're about to do a split jerk with it. And you'll have much better kind of systematic tightness of the mid and upper back and, of course, of the shoulders.
Will someone be... Oh, sorry. James is saying about the sizes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Size for, I think probably what you'd usually size for the pants, or maybe smaller depending, but I would not go by my height and pants size.
No, your dimensions are freakish.
They're out of control.
They are.
Will someone be filming the Weightlifting Camp next month? We will try film as much as possible. By the way, there is still spaces available for anyone who wants to attend the Weightlifting Camp next month in Epsom, London, 15th to the 18th of April. It's €849 for a ticket, but you will have... So I know it is a lot of money, without a doubt. That's why we're trying to give the lads going to the seminar as much value for money as possible. So we're going to be doing the weeks leading up to it. We'll be critiquing form and giving a program if they need it. We will have 8 sessions of weightlifting with us. We're doing lectures in the evening. So we're going to try to give them, everyone who goes to the camp, as much value as possible. You know, it's it works down as basically like €35 an hour. So average PT at the moment in Ireland is about 50 to 60, €50 an hour per PT session, you know. So we just want to give you as much value for possible for every hour we get with you in the weightlifting camp, and make sure you learn stuff for weightlifting. Hopefully have some PPEs, but preferably just learn a lot about weightlifting that you can bring with you. So still spaces for the weightlifting camp. And I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Epsom is really nice. Yeah. London's nice, except it's the most expensive place in the world.
No, Epsom's nice. It'll be a great camp as well. Okay, a few good questions here. Dr. Demographic says you're now €45 minus cost divided by 2 richer. Nick Pohl says, are there any uses to higher reps in snatches and cleans, 4+ reps, and in what context would you use them? Certainly for me with the weightlifters, they go up to 4 reps semi-regularly. They certainly go to 3 reps very regularly. I think in preparatory phases, higher reps in the clean and the snatch and the jerk are very, very useful. Your weights are so low that you need to make up that training effect. You obviously need to accumulate quite a lot of volume, and I like 4s. I think anything above 4s, things start to change, so the grip starts to become altered. The amount of quad dominance we get in the pull tends to change, so people end up shooting their ass up and pulling the bar off the ground with their back. And just the general movement changes a lot when we go above those reps at the important weight brackets, or important percentage brackets. But certainly going to 4s for snatches is quite common. Do you see the question below that? Do you think...
Are you on with the
Adderall one?
So that is a really interesting question, right? So I thought about this in the gene doping. So if you are at a disadvantage due to a condition you were born with, or a disease state you're in, or I don't know what the PC term for ADHD is, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You're at a current place where you need a pharmaceutical intervention to bring you to a certain space. And is it a performance enhanced advantage if it's bringing you to a level playing field? My kind of answer is no. I don't think it is. But do they have it? Technically, for you, you're now performance enhanced because it made you better at your performance. You know. So is there room for context in WADA? What we've seen is no.
Don't think WADA care about context.
No, for me personally, I think you should definitely be allowed a TUE for things like this.
Yeah.
I think without a doubt. And I don't think it's a cheating or it's breaking. You know, I don't think it's cheating. I suppose in this purest sense of the word, I think you're just getting to a place where you need that to be kind of as optimally functional as possible, or on a level playing field with other people. Is how I think about that. It's an interesting question. There's definitely a lot of thought around it with gene doping, but I'm sure WADA don't give a shit.
The other thing you have to look at is like Adderall specifically and how much of an advantage it's going to give you. It's not like your stanazolol levels were low when you got a TUE and now you're able to take stanazolol in competition. Like, it's completely different. Particularly the use of Adderall in someone with ADHD, it's not, you're not going to skyrocket your red blood cell count and suddenly be much better at running 5Ks, or you're not going to get a massive increase in testosterone and be much more aggressive in a boxing ring. So I don't think they have a huge advantage athletically. I think the disadvantage having a psychological condition like that would give you would be kind of irredeemable with the use of Adderall. Certainly think people should be allowed to take medication and compete in sport.
James is saying the pants are going quick. The pants are going quick. Everything's going quick.
There's a few pairs of XL pants left, I think. Is there? Okay, Cameron Vickers says, this is a great question because there's a funny story about this question. Thoughts on early arm bend in the second pull? Gabriel seems to have a partial arm bend and Miso keeps it locked in full on extension. So Gabriel, when you talk about arm bend, says he only bends his arms when his legs don't feel strong. That is true as God. That's what he says. He says he doesn't bend his arms. He only bends his arms when his legs don't feel strong. So it's not like he has that as part of his technical model. For us, early arm bend is absolutely no way non-negotiable. You change it or else you go somewhere else. It's the main thing you work on all of the time. We like somebody rounding their back in the deadlift and then expecting something else to be fixed before you fix the rounding of the back in the deadlift. It's it will be high on the list of priorities of things to fix in someone's clean.
So why is arm pull bad? Why is arm bend bad before they're supposed to bend? They're in the ideal place to bend them. So essentially, if you imagine that scenario that Gabriel's talking about, like, so why would his arms bend when his legs are not working? So essentially, it's what is taking the load, what is doing the pulling action, and what is compensating for the optimal levers not taking the load. So in this scenario, the optimal mechanics are your legs pushing off the ground and your back pulling, and your arms remaining in a rigid position but not a bent position, and they are moving the barbell up as much as possible because they are far stronger than your arms. So if you think about, your body has some internal protective mechanisms. If I want to run into that wall, unless I'm a psychopath, I can't really do that, And when you are moving there, your CNS kind of has a braking mechanism when less optimal or weaker muscles take the load. So when you're pulling and you start bending your arms, your CNS is very intuitive. Your body is very aware of what's going on. Thank God it is, because if we were left to control it, it might not be so great. But when you start bending your arms in the second pull, your body goes, oh shit, our arms are taking the load. They're not as strong as our legs. So we need to slow this barbell down because it's moving too fast for our arms to safely move, essentially. And so your arms are never really going to be as strong as your legs. And so in this scenario, the barbell will almost always slow down. And so any advantage you get from getting the bar higher up into your hip is massively outweighed by how the bar slows down from pulling with your arms. The other issue with pulling with your arms is that as you begin to extend, a very important part of the third pull is the active interaction with your arms and the barbell. And if your arms are already bent before you start the third pull. And then as you go into the third pull, if your arms are not in a position where they can pull the barbell in, if they're already bent here, it's a much harder position for you to actively keep pulling under as you get under the barbell. And Lucas said he likes the black gray merch. Yeah, it is. It's a nice little color.
Gavin Heffernan is asking if his order has gone through, and it has. So you should be getting a confirmation email soon. There's somebody else asking about a confirmation email. It should be coming through soon. Okay, where are we? Scroll the way down.
John Shields, a volunteer we do not know, a guy we don't know, said we should do a First Light collab. That'd be great.
A First Light collab would be great.
First Light jacket and Seek Strength First Light jacket.
Oh, it'd be sick. Okay. Where are we? I've lost where we were in the thread, but I have a good question here.
Sean Bates is saying, should I do speed work if I haven't good strength? My squat right now is 1.5 times body weight. Should I wait until 2 times body weight? So Sean, the flat out answer is you should wait till you're a bit stronger. The kind of context answer is it depends what you're doing, what you've done before, what you want to do in the future, what are your goals right now, what's your current injury state. So it kind of depends on a few things. So for example, if you've been playing what's a powerful sport?
Water polo.
If you've been playing like water polo since you're 6 and now you're 20 or whatever, there's probably a case for you to, in your S&C training, do some plyometric training, for example. However, if you have just picked up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you're 37 and you have 1.5 times body weight squat now, we would very likely recommend that you get closer to that double body weight back squat before you start doing that plyometric work. And then you go about that plyometric very, very sensibly. The reason being that water polo athlete who's been playing water polo for 14 odd years, tendons and ligaments have built up a lot of resilience to explosive movement, or if it's a gymnast, or if it's a rugby player, or a sprinter, any athletics person doing lower body plyometrics, their tendons and ligaments and joints and muscles and motor unit recruitment system has all been very well attuned and very well adapted over the course of some years progressively, and through the limitation of them just being babies and children aren't able to apply that much force, and so their tendons and ligaments grew nicely alongside that. So then if you get to the age of 18 and you're doing hurdles and you have 1.5 times body weight back squat, but you've done a load of essentially plyometric based movements for your sport for 14 odd years, you can go ahead and do that speed training smartly and progressively, and you progress it like you would with any new exercise. Like you wouldn't jump into the deep end, but you'd be pretty safe in the knowledge that if I approach this very diligently and I approach this intelligently with the correct progressions and movements, then I could do this safely and get a lot of benefit from it. But if you are 38, previously untrained, you just started jiu-jitsu, and you see that the best jiu-jitsu athletes are really fast, and you're wrestling some of the younger lads, and they're absolutely smashing you in judo throws, and you're like, geez, I'd like to be a little bit more powerful. For you, it wouldn't be a great place to go and do a lot of explosive movements for your tendons and ligaments and your muscles, because they just wouldn't be able to take it, even if you went into it very, very slowly. Or it would take it to a certain extent, but much better scenario, and you'll get much more out of the plyometrics if you're just stronger at the start. So if you bring up that deficit of force production because it's slower, you can do it in a more controlled environment. And, you know, to be honest, if you're 38 and you're doing BJJ or whatever, judo or something, or taekwondo, you just start, you're not in any rush to be able to do plyometric movements. You know, you've a lot to do and a lot to learn. So depending on your context there, Sean, whatever level you fall in between those, you need to make your decision based off that.
Yeah. A load of people are saying by the time they got the notification, the stuff was gone.
Really?
Yeah.
But they still get theirs.
Yeah.
No, you still get yours. Yeah. I was just going to say, no, that's...
Okay. Kind of Thick says, ever do a video on fitness standards for different countries' armed forces? No, we haven't. We have a fair few armed forces people on the books, though. So we should certainly do...
You don't see a lot of videos.
No,
of that.
A lot of their testing, certainly all their data is proprietary. Like it's not really published. You see some of the psychology stuff with the US Army gets published fairly regularly. The US Army famously are the biggest employers of sports psychologists in the world due to their combat resilience program.
So there's still some medium black Republic of Sikistan t-shirts and speckled blue. Such a fancy name. So there's still a few of the female. There's 8 left of the blue, speckled blue, in the medium, 6 in the large, few XL and 1 XXL. Okay, so there's still a few blues. The blue is very nice.
So nice.
Yeah, so definitely recommend that.
Super physiological levels of drip. Suspicious drip. Okay. J. Don Ireland says, thoughts on Stephen Ranella insisting on referring to European mounts as freedom mounts. Take into account all the quality content you guys put out. €45 a bargain for a long sleeve. Thanks very much. To be honest, like, Americans love freedom and they really don't like Europe that much. So it's when they call like freedom fries instead of French fries and stuff. I like Ranella and it doesn't really bother me that he calls them freedom mounts instead of European mounts. Funnily enough, European mounts are an American name for a skull mount. Traditionally, they're not called European mounts in Europe. They're called a skull mount, or just a cap mount would be much more common. So yeah, I think European mounts are just what Americans call them. So I remember being on a hunting ranch in South Carolina and everyone just assuming that all taxidermy in Europe, or in Ireland for that case, where it's going to be European mounts, whereas full skin mounts or shoulder mounts here are still quite common.
Ranella has a lot of belligerent behaviors, which I love him for it.
No, he's great.
But if I was his friend, I'd be calling him out on so much stuff so frequently. Now, even the lads who work for him, they always call him out on stuff, you know.
It's good to see, though.
No, it's great to see. And my favorite part is he takes it so well. He doesn't like, care, no, he can give a fuck.
Yeah.
But that's what got him where he is.
Yeah.
The biggest, and I'm going to say best hunting show.
It is the best hunting show in the world.
Yeah, by far. It's the most real and polished. It's the least reality TV show.
Joe, why?
Yeah.
Because it's not shot like a hunting show. It's shot like a good Netflix TV show.
Yeah.
Okay. Thoughts on Vershansky's, whatever it is, I can't pronounce Vershansky's acceleration program, or any of his others. What are your thoughts on them, Griff?
I can't remember if I've looked at Vershansky's acceleration stuff. If I was to take a gamble, I would say if Vershansky's written it, it's the likelihood it's very, very good. The principles on it. You might need to adapt it for yourself, but his work is phenomenal, you know, and he's logical thinking. You know, he's a genius, just a bona fide genius when it comes to sports science, or just even in general. So I'd say, without seeing it, I would say there's probably a good chance Vershansky's acceleration stuff is very, very good. If the godfather of plyometrics, if he doesn't know a thing or two about acceleration, who does?
Nobody does.
Who does?
Oh, I saw John Shields' comment. It's great to have John Shields on the...
Miss him.
First ever guest on the Shit Talk podcast.
Johnny coming home in the summer, what's the crap?
If everyone in the chat could tell John to come home, it would be great.
RS is saying, do you teach any tactical differences in clients who are doing weightlifting for sports performance as opposed to for weightlifting comps? The only difference is we just don't really teach anyone who does this.
Oh, yeah.
Weightlifting for sports.
With the off-season athletes, they have like power cleans and stuff if they're able to do them. And it just doesn't matter as much for them. So it's like weightlifters, really, really technical. If they bang the bar away from them too much, if they're not transitioning from first pull into second pull well, if their pull off the floor is slightly forward, any of these issues, then we really get on them straight away about fixing it. If I have an off-season rugby player and they have 4 to 6 weeks of power cleans in the second half of their off-season and they're making a bit too much contact on the quads, it really doesn't matter too much. They get the exact same training effect. Their top end 1 or M won't be as good because their technique won't be as good. But also they're never testing their top end 1 or M, so they never go up there. So it's like trying to raise the ceiling when I never go above the second floor. So that's the only real difference. Obviously, you still perfect and alter their technique where they're just not able to do the movement. They're not able to do the movement effectively or safely. But overall, we don't change it too much.
No, there wouldn't be, there wouldn't be any reason to realistically. Maybe variations or frequency variations, or some of them might never do a full lift from the floor, even, So it would really depend, but there wouldn't be any technical differences. It would just be what they're doing, when they're doing it, where they're doing it, and more often than not, most of the time they're not doing it, or it's like, in my head, I kind of don't even count the power clean as like a weightlifting move. Some scenarios.
It's barely a derivative of the clean.
Like in my head, when I think of like power cleans for athletes, I'm like, I don't even think of it as like snatch and clean and jerk. I don't bracket it in the same place in my head.
Okay, will we
just have a look at email there?
Great. Gotta pick out a few interesting questions.
Christian is saying, can you use heart rate zones to train for a primarily aerobic sport like wrestling? Triathletes seem terrified of the 70-80% range, but there seems to be good for wrestling training. For wrestling, I want to be in the zone where it's all of the time, because wrestling training is so intense. But obviously, don't approach your training like that. But I like heart rate zones. I like the bracketing.
I really like them.
Having a very clear-cut metric of where your training should be and where you're at right now, and knowing that you have a place that you can progress to, and more importantly, a place that you can regress back to, so you don't have to be flat out. For wrestling, wrestling is so aerobic demanding. It's so fucking intense, and you need so much power, and you need to be able to do so often. For wrestling, it's very, very important. But just for the general use of heart rate zones for wrestling, I think is definitely a good idea. For any aerobic training, it definitely makes perfect sense. Like, it's so important to have, places, know where you are now, know what place that is, measure that variable. Can I change this variable? And then you can look at what happens when you change that variable and what you're doing then, and you can have it written down on a piece of paper, So it's definitely very important. Heart rate zones are, you don't hear a lot about them, but people who do a lot of good conditioning, loads of them use heart rate zones, and where they are, and with good reason. Eric's asking me sweatpants, but we don't have sweatpants.
No,
neither of us really wear sweatpants.
No, I did a lot back in the day, but not anymore.
Yeah, back in the day, I would have, but not anymore.
No.
So I don't think we will in the future either. Not a huge fan of sweatpants.
No, they were great in their time.
What do you wear in the after you take the shower in the evening around the living room?
Jeans.
You wear jeans after?
I wear pants. I wear jeans and a belt.
After the shower?
What am I wearing now?
After your shower?
It goes jeans and a belt. I put my gi on when I go training, or tracksuit pants when I go training. Jeans and a belt. And then I shower and I go to bed.
But what happens if you take a shower like 7 or 8? And
I wouldn't.
Strange. I wear shorts. I wouldn't.
The very odd evening, maybe once a month, if I was wandering around the house.
Do you know what?
I wear rugby shorts.
You wear board shorts as well, so you don't have
board shorts are gone now.
You don't have an opinion on the clothes.
My board shorts are gone.
Who threw them away?
I just didn't bring them with me to the house.
Thank fuck.
I was a big proponent of board shorts back in the day.
And now you know how terrible it is.
No, it was good back in the day.
People who train in board shorts should be shot. Remember Anelia, after, when he started training in board shorts? On his down
that was nothing to do with the board shorts.
No, and that's anything to do with the board shorts. But the fact that he was wearing board shorts tells you what kind of person wears board shorts for training. I'm just saying.
Eamon says, "What a madman!" I assume in reference to the jeans after a shower.
Absolute, just ludicrousness.
If everyone wants to know who actually powers the back end of Seeker Strength, and who is 100% responsible, and is the only reason we're able to do stuff like this, it's because of Eamon Z. At the very bottom of the comments. So that man deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Kylo says, what's the difference between running your 3 separate, so press, squat, and pull programs versus your powerlifting program? I'm looking to compete in powerlifting. So the difference in this is mainly an issue of intensity and timelines, right? So the powerlifting program is run in blocks. We really expect no less than 4 blocks to be run in a row. And ideally it will be longer than that. So you go 1 through 4, maybe max out, take a break, then 5 through 8, right? The standalone programs are there as an 8-week or a 10-week blast to bring one of the numbers up. Now, certainly they're written that they can be run concurrently, but you have to understand that you're blasting all of those for the 8 or 10 weeks. It's going to be a very difficult 8 or 10 weeks, and it's not really going to be sustainable for, like, you can't do that all year round, keep running it that hard, unless you're on some amazing gear that nobody else has heard of yet, right? It's very, very hard training. So for more longitudinal, effective training, the blocks are better. For I only have 10 weeks to my comp, or I want to max out in 3 months, the 3 standalone programs are great.
Yeah, they're like, if you're in the off season and your coach says, listen, Dara, if you want to make it onto the senior squad next year, you need 20 kilos on your back squat, and you're playing rugby, or it's you're playing American football, then I'd be like, gotta run the back squat program. Or you've just done a really big competition in weightlifting or something, and your coach is like, or you've just been like, fuck, those cleans are heavy, I need more of a back squat base now, you'd run the back squat program. But if you're a powerlifter who wants to train powerlifter ad nauseum, then definitely it would be far and away the powerlifting programs for sure. Now, that said, if you're a powerlifter and you go to the comp and your squat and your bench goes very, very well, and then your bench and your pull goes really well, or whatever, whichever one didn't go well, then if you wanted to give one of them a jump start, then you could do one of the individual programs.
So there's a really good question here from Kinda Thick. It says, best horizontal press for focus on punching. Is it bench press, floor press, or does it matter as long as you can hit 1.2 body weight in one of them? I like, so for punching, I'm assuming you're boxing or MMA. And in those cases, there's, particularly in MMA or any of the other kind of fight sports, there's a bigger range of motion involved than just the floor press. If it was just boxing, or if it was just rugby where you're fending or handing off, or just American football, the floor press is really effective. You can use a lot of weight. You can train a huge amount of people in one gym at one time by using the floor press. And it's a relatively easy movement to do. And then in a lot of those cases, you'll have shoulder issues that are inherent to the sport, and a full range of motion bench press isn't ideal. So first thing I'd say is floor press is really effective in those cases. If I was designing an athlete, or if I got a 15 or 16-year-old boy or girl and they were going to be a boxer, they would be training full range of motion bench press and getting that bench press to be as strong as possible. But it really depends on your situation. Like, the floor press is so effective, so useful. We just don't always necessarily, it would be better to train the bench press if you could train the bench press.
If you didn't get a confirmation email, it just might be slow coming through. So if the order went through and you paid for your clothes or whatever, it's confirmed. But I think it's a little bit slow coming through at the moment.
Yeah.
From what Eamon is saying.
Yeah.
Speaking of Eamon.
Okay. Jarvilli asked, could someone run the press program for dumbbell bench? Not ideally. The thing with dumbbell movements, even though it's still double arm, you don't get the same loading. Like, you're not able to, if I can bench press 106 or 120 kilos, I'm probably not going to be able to bench 60 kilos in both hands. You know, there's a bit more going on there. There's a bit more in terms of coordination and stability going on there. So I would just say no off the bat. You could probably do it and then pull back the progressions from week to week, and you could probably go through it that way. But ideally, you wouldn't. I think all confirmation emails should be sent out now. Okay, Nicholas Larson says, I'm sure you've answered this 15 times already. What are the sizes like for pants? So I'm 6'1", 105 kilos, and I wear an XL in all my pants, and I wear an XL in these pants. They fit a tiny bit long,
Mm-hmm.
but I think if you're just normal European sizing, if you're a large in your tracksuit pants normally, you'll be a large in these normally.
Look, if you're 5'8" and 100 kilos like I am, you'll know that you need to get different size pants. But from what we've seen from anyone else wearing the pants, you should be fine with your normal size. Just remember European size as well, or what we call European sizes. You know, as John said a comment there was really funny. He's like, he said the pants are run long, but he's sure it's not just the man.
Yeah. And as well, you're 105 kilos, all of quads.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I really like the hoodies as well. They feel very nice. They're very comfortable on, very nice material. If you feel like you're in good shape, I would highly recommend the hoodies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I was out of shape and I had a belly or something, probably wouldn't be wearing hoodies. But if I was in good shape,
yeah,
the hoodies look great. They look great. Ian is just asking about what's the most ideal program combo for weightlifting. Does the weightlifting program include squatting, or is it paired squat program? So weightlifting is all your squats, more squats than you'll ever need. So you don't have to run the squat program with the weightlifting program. A lot of people have done that just because they wanted to do the program and do the weightlifting at the same time. But the weightlifting program by itself is perfect for anything you need for weightlifting: squats, pulls, and accessories, and snatch, clean, jerk, of course. So you don't need to do anything. You don't need to do anything different. You don't need to add the squat program.
Someone says, if you had the opportunity to live in a different country, why is it New Zealand? It would 100% be New Zealand.
I don't know what I do in New Zealand, but I'd love to go see New Zealand.
I'd do New Zealand, like live on the South Island.
It couldn't be farther away from us.
Yeah.
It literally, I don't think it could be
phenomenal
farther.
Shooting and fishing. I'd live there forever.
There's no seasons for a lot of things in New Zealand, which is phenomenal. What's it like getting guns and stuff there, though, in there?
Pretty good. We can bring guns from here.
Can you? Fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to go hunting in New Zealand, especially, just all year round. In summer, imagine just hunting in like nice warm clothes. Or just
they all hunt in shorts.
That's unbelievable.
That is amazing.
Imagine shorts and just a nice pair of light boots.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
There was at one point last year, remember that day on the side of a mountain, and I genuinely could, my hands are so cold from holding my sticks. Like it was just painful. Yeah. But that terribleness is good too, because you're so happy when you get something then.
Yeah.
But hunting in sunny weather in the morning.
See, then though,
yeah,
rabbit shooting, which you do a lot of during the summer, is terrible because it's so warm.
Yeah.
You know, we think it would be great because it's the complete opposite of what we have to do.
And you'd have to grow like everything so fast and get it gone.
Yeah.
Still, though, it'd be great though to see.
Shane H says, "What RP should I be at when I sleep?"
Zero, maxed out. Just
it's about as useful as RP gets, to be honest.
That's actually a good question. Yeah. And can I say something about it? I'm not going to answer where you can buy it, but if you go to a restaurant, right, and they say like Wicklow deer, or they say something like Kerry deer, that's just farm deer. That's essentially a cow you're buying.
Well, yeah, you can
most of the time.
Yeah, you can buy wild venison here really easily. So there's 2 or 3 game dealers around the place. It's sold like Premier Game. There's a load of game dealers, or a few game dealers in Ireland, where you can just ring them up and you can buy them. They have it stocked in loads of shops.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, get the good stuff off them if you get the good stuff.
The problem is, like, when you sell deer, you sell big old stags, which is actually, if you're on the continent, that's what's favorable, more gamey taste.
But they dry that for a long time, don't they? Age it a lot.
Yeah, but they want the taste. They want it rutty, like.
Weird.
But yeah, you can buy it. Just look up game dealers in Ireland.
The best scenario would be you'd get to know someone personally, who has a license or a butchering qualification, and then once you start to get to know them, you can ask them for the good stuff. You can be like, I want a young stag or a younger doe or something, you know. But I have a thing of actively not buying deer in restaurants, because you're essentially buying a cow.
It's not the same. Well, that's if it's farm deer.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
All right, guys. I think
that's it. Thanks so much for everyone who tuned in.
Thanks so much
for everyone who bought merch.
Yeah, really appreciate it. It's awesome. So This time it won't be 2 years again before the next March.
Yeah, hopefully 3 months.
Yeah, hopefully midsummer, like June sometime, April, May, June.
Yeah.
June would be a nice time to do one of these again. Thank you for everyone buying stuff. There's still stuff left from what I can see.
Yeah, definitely. If you were like disappointed, or if you thought you've missed out, there's some pants, there's some tops.
There's definitely a few t-shirts left as well.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, we'll talk to you all again soon. For everyone who ordered, they're all going to be packaged up and shipped out this week. So you'll get an email with your tracking number, and hopefully you'll have that soon.
5 medium blacks left in t-shirts, and lads, the blues are nice.
Yeah, blues are so nice.
Large. Yeah, there's still a few blues left as well. How are the long sleeves doing? The pants are basically gone, are they? There's a few XL pants left, actually.
There's plenty long sleeve black.
How many people are over 6 foot, though, really, is the question. You know?
No, that's great. Thanks very much, guys. We'll talk to you all again soon.
Black would have been the first color I